Hello, I've decided to talk about behaviourism in our meeting tonight. Definition and introduction. It is important for us to understand behaviourism and its different elements as it can help explain and aid the learning processes of our students. It is defined as a learning theory that only focuses on objectively observable behaviours and discounts any independent activities of the mind. Learning theories can be explained as an organised set of principles that portray how individual people acquire, retain, and recall knowledge. The principles of these theories can be used as guidelines to help select instructional tools, techniques, and strategies that promote learning, which consequently aids us teachers into having the best teaching styles for our students to benefit from. The other important theories to recognise are cognitivism and constructivism. This presentation will cover aspects to behaviourism that will be broken up into sections for deeper understanding, along with the limitations and strengths of each being noted. John B. Watson. In 1911, psychologist John Watson took key elements of observation and experimental rigour and wrote a seminal paper, Psychology as the Behaviourist View It. In this document, explained was that in order for psychology to be taken seriously as a science, that focus needed to turn toward the observable and objective behaviours. Psychologists would then be able to determine the exact cause and effect and measure behaviour with precise calculations, thus giving it scientific legitimacy. So this began a new movement that we know today as behaviourism. Classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is defined as a learning situation in which a certain unconditioned stimulus that naturally evokes a specific, automatic, unconditioned response, usually a reflex, is paired over a series of trials with a neutral stimulus that does not usually produce this response. This theory was created by the work of Ian Pavlov and his experiments in the 1920s and sparked common knowledge amongst psychologists and is widely recognised as a close yet crucial part of learning correct behaviours still in the 21st century. Pavlov's dogs. When using classical conditioning, you need to start with a reflex that's automatic, in which case for Pavlov, it was the dog salivating when they had food. The next step is to decide on a meaningless stimulus. For Pavlov, this was a bell. This meant that every time the dogs were given food, they would also hear a bell rung by Pavlov. And therefore, after time, when the bell was rung, the dogs would salivate as they associated the bell with the food, which was desirable. Limitations and strengths. It should be noted that a strength of classical conditioning theory is that it is scientific. This is because it is based on empirical evidence carried out by controlled experiments. A limitation to this theory is that it describes behaviour solely in terms of either nature or nurture. It is more likely that the behaviour is due to an interaction between nature, biology, and nurture, the environment. Therefore, this theory can have a bit of a grey line. Another strength is that it can be easily used in everyday life, therefore making it more attractive for teachers to adapt to on a common basis through its long-lasting effect on behaviour. Operant conditioning. Operant conditioning refers to a type of learning in which the consequences that follow our response determine whether the response is likely to be repeated. B.F. Skinner believed that there is no such thing as free will, and therefore created operant conditioning, of which the organism behaves in order to elicit a reward, reinforcement, or stops behaving to avoid a punishment. Operant conditioning is unique in its own way through its four consequences that are positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. Types of reinforcement. Operant conditioning is largely based on two types of reinforcement. There is positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, each of which is very basic. The positive reinforcement adds something good that can encourage the behaviour again, and the negative reinforcement takes something away from the individual. Limitations and strengths. It is noted that classical conditioning is fairly limited when it comes to shaping behaviour, primarily because it is an automatic response that must already exist. If the reinforcer isn't administered immediately, this could mean that there won't be an association between the desired response and the reinforcer without other factors intervening. Strength to operant conditioning is that there are reinforcements given and therefore create a sense of interest for the individual and can lead to quicker and more precise results. My favourite aspect. Personally, I really enjoy operant conditioning for many reasons. The kids love and strive for reinforcement, and therefore I find that not only do I love operant conditioning, but the students do too, and that they don't even realise it's being undertaken, which is what makes it so accessible. You have freedom with what reinforcement you want to use, and therefore you can make it personal for each student. Operant conditioning is so flexible that it allows for behaviours to be learned and positively changed, which is really handy in the classroom and is also why I'm so passionate about using it. The summary: behaviourism as a whole is something crucial to teachers and is easily adopted into the classroom learning for a wide range of personality types. The two branched ideas of classical conditioning and operant conditioning allow a personal choice for teachers in the aspect of what aligns with their morals and teaching habits. Behaviourism, as created by John B. Watson, has had and will continue to have a lasting impact on the learning and the behaviours displayed by individuals, especially through being so accessible to adapt to. Here are my references, and thank you for watching.